Hello, ladies. How is everyone doing? I hope that you're doing fantastic. Guess what? It's spring. And it's a beautiful day here on the East Coast, and I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving it. I hope that you're loving where you are. I'm hoping that it's nice weather and you can get some good vitamin D to get in that sunshine in you. Right? Because that's what we need. We have to always get that nice vitamin D. Well, I am so happy to be here today and to talk with you ladies and just have our informal conversations, but hopefully the conversations are very positive and informative for you and your health. So, with that being said, you know how I always say that you are absolutely gorgeous. You're absolutely beautiful. And I always like to say that because women need compliments. We need them. Sometimes we don't always get them. You know, even if we're married or have a boyfriend, sometimes our significant others forget that, hey, remember me? how do I look today? You know, I got my hair done. Are you noticing me? Right? So for me, I feel that it's so important for us to feel good, look good, and it doesn't matter, you know, what size you are, doesn't matter how tall you are. What matters is to feel good within yourself. So you are absolutely beautiful. And if I haven't said, I am your host. My name is Gail Thorpe, and I'm a functional nutritionist. And basically, I get to the bottom line of your health. I'm like a detective. Okay? And you're listening to the Estrogen Chronicles, and that is Her Plate, Her Power. And here we discuss on how we have different situations as women and how we can use nutrition to take back our plate to get healthy. So with that being said, guys, I want you to sit back and relax. I want you to have your water with you, have maybe a little bit of wine with you if you like. Whatever you want to have is fine. I'm okay with that as long as you are able to enjoy yourself. So today we're going to talk about a topic I feel that is so important because a lot of women experience it and not sure exactly what's going on. So basically, the topic is, why am I losing my hair? And understanding hormonal hair loss in women. So welcome back to the show, guys. And today with our topic, this is something that can make you feel deeply personal and incredibly frustrating, right? Because women losing hair due to hormones is frustrating. And sometimes we're not even sure that's why we're losing our hair, but most of the time it is a hormonal situation. So if you noticed more shedding in the shower, thinning around your part, or your ponytail feeling smaller than it used to, you are not alone. Not at all. Hair loss in women is common, and hormonal changes are one of the biggest reasons this occurs. So for a lot of women, hair loss does not start with a dramatic event. Some people feel it does. They feel like, okay, I'm in college and I have to study for this big test and I'm nervous about it, and that's what caused my hair loss. It could have happened that way, because definitely stress, as you know from prior episodes, ladies, that we talked about, that stress can cause a lot of different things, right? But it doesn't always have to be a big event. Okay? It starts quietly. A little more hair in a brush, a little more scalp showing through, a little more worry every time you wash or style your hair. And because hair is tied to identity, it's also tied to us being feminine and confident, this can feel emotionally heavy. But the first thing I want you to know is this. Hormonal hair loss is real, and in many cases, it can be understood and addressed. Now, how about that? Because some people may say, well, I don't know if you could do anything about it. It is what it is, but you can. A lot of times, some things you can do. So your hormones, let's just talk about a little bit about the hormones. Now, with your hormones, of course, it helps to regulate a huge range of functions in the body. So including hair growth cycles. So the hair growth cycle is definitely correlated to your hormones. So when your hormones shift, hair follicles can be pushed out of their normal growth phase and into a resting or shedding phase. Now, some of the most common hormones linked to hair loss in women include estrogen, progesterone, DHT, cortisol, and thyroid hormones. Now, that means hair loss may show up during major changes like pregnancy, postpartum recovery, perimenopause, menopause, chronic stress, as we just mentioned a second ago, or thyroid dysfunction. Okay? So give me 1 second, ladies. Be right back. Okay, ladies. So let me break down those big hormonal players. First of all, estrogen. So estrogen is often associated with fuller, thicker hair because it supports the growth phase. So now when estrogen drops, especially during menopause or even after childbirth, many women notice more shedding and thinning. Okay? Have you experienced that? I'm quite sure you have. Now, your second is androgens, like DHT. So for DHT, this can shrink your hair follicles over time, making hair strands finer and weaker. And this is often seen in androgen-related hair loss and can be more noticeable in women with conditions like PCOS or inherited pattern hair loss. And the third is our cortisol. So chronic stress can keep cortisol levels elevated, and stress is well known to trigger shredding of your hair by shifting hair into the resting phase. And sometimes the hair loss shows up a few months after a stressful event, which makes it easy to make this connection. And then our fourth is our thyroid hormones. Now, both underactive and overactive thyroid function can contribute to hair thinning. So if our hair loss is ongoing, thyroid is one of the things that most clinicians often evaluate. Okay? All right, guys. So hormonal hair loss does not always look the same for every woman. That's the thing. So some notice overall thinning, while others see widening at the part, more shedding at the pillow, or a thinner ponytail that I mentioned just a few moments ago. So like in some cases, shedding is temporary, such as postpartum or stress-related hair loss. And in other cases, especially with menopause or androgen-related thinning, it can become more gradual and persistent. That is why it matters to pay attention early and not just assume it's normal or something you have to simply actually accept. Okay? And that's the case. We don't always have to accept things. We have to investigate. We have to look into it and make sure that we get the help that we need. So with that being said, the right approach depends on the cause. That may include checking thyroid function, which if you go to your clinician, that's one of the things that they're going to check. Looking at your iron levels and your vitamin status. Now, you've heard me mention before, when we have vitamin deficiencies, and I'm going to repeat that again, vitamin deficiencies, ladies, we need to know exactly what's going on if we're deficient in vitamins. And I'm not just saying because, okay, you're taking Centrum, you're taking one a day, and you feel that I'm getting all the nutrients that I need. A lot of times, And in my field of functional medicine and functional nutrition, I do a test which actually helps to see exactly if you're deficient in your vitamins. And do you know that most of my clients are always deficient in vitamins of some sort? So whether it's 1 or 2 or maybe 10 or 12, they're deficient. And so if your body is not getting the nutrients that it needs, how can it function for you? How can it produce the ultimate you? So keep in mind that you need to always get a vitamin deficiency testing. If you want to know more about it, I do it. I stand by it. I've seen the changes with women. So you can always contact me on that matter. Okay. So we want to make sure we're reviewing our medications as well, because sometimes medications can cause hair loss. And addressing, of course, stress and our sleep, nutrition, and our hormone imbalance. And we talk a lot about hormones here. We talk about imbalances here. I've had a few sessions ago in our talks about hormone imbalance and some of the things that can come from that. So hair support is also often means giving the body enough protein, excuse me, iron, zinc, healthy fats, and overall nourishment. This is how we begin to take back our plate. Taking back our plate, ladies. Now, some nutrition sources suggest juicing recipes and ingredients like spinach and carrots, cucumber and beets and apple and ginger as a supportive addition to your healthy diet and for helping with your hair. Now, keep in mind though, while juicing is not absolutely a cure for hormonal hair loss, okay, because it's definitely something that you may not be able to necessarily change, it can be a simple way to add the nutrients to support hair health. Okay, so keep that in mind. So if you're going through this, I want you to remind yourself that you are not vain for caring about your hair. Okay? Remember that you are not vain for caring about your hair because that's a part of you. You're not overreacting. That's the other thing. It would be very difficult as a woman that, you're sleeping and then you get up and you see on your pillow a whole lot of your hair. It can be depressing. It can cause stress, all right? So you're not overreacting. If you see that, if you see hair that's coming out in clumps and it starts to bother you, it's okay. It would bother you. And you are definitely not alone. Keep that in mind because there are so many women that are experiencing hair loss. Sometimes it can also come from products that we use too. Keep that in mind. So we want to be mindful of the products that we use. There has been a direct link in African American women that actually use the perms, right? Because the perms actually seep into your scalp and seep into your cells. And sometimes it can cause not only just hair loss, but it can also lead to other toxic things that can happen in your body. And sometimes it can cause, believe it or not, cancer. Okay? So we have to be mindful of the products that we use as well. We want to try our best to keep our bodies clean. We want to try to keep our hormones working functionally as much as possible by eating the right foods and taking back our plate. So hair loss can be a signal, not just a cosmetic issue. So like I was just mentioning, certain things can happen. Thyroid issues can come from that. That's one of the things that the doctors will check. So when you go to the doctor, they're going to check for your thyroid. They're going to check for your hormones. And they may check for a couple of key vitamins like possibly D3 or B12. They don't tend to cover the gamut like I do, but they will check for some things, okay? So just keep in mind with that. And it can be your body's way of saying that stress, hormones, nutrition, and another internal factor needs attention. You know, that's what's so awesome about the way God has made our bodies, is that if there's something going on, if something is off, it tends to tell us. And if we tend to pay attention to our bodies, we will start to know, something might not be right. So the good news is that once the cause is identified, there are usually meaningful steps that you can actually take. So as we always talk about here, how we can take back our plate, right? That's the most important thing. So there are some useful supplements for hormonal hair loss, usually the ones that correct a deficiency or target a specific trigger, not a random hair vitamin. So I'm going to give you a few options here, right, that can possibly help, but we need to get to the bottom of things as well. So the strongest options are commonly discussed are vitamin D, okay, iron, zinc, biotin when we're low, and definitely some, of course, certain multivitamins can help because it gives us a little bit of everything, right? So then we also can consider saw palmetto, omega-3 fish oil. Okay. They're not always strongly recommended as a standalone choice for women's hair loss, but it's definitely helpful. So let's break down a little bit of that. So with vitamin D, which is helpful in your level if it's especially low, okay? But it's not a guaranteed regrowth fix by itself. Because, you know, vitamins, even though D, you need that, you know, vitamins work in conjunction with other vitamins to help on certain conditions, right? So iron, for instance, it's important if you are low in ferritin or you have an iron deficiency. And it's part of the same issue, which is common in women with shedding. So a lot of times, and this is why I said it's important to get what? Our vitamins checked, our deficiencies checked, because if we're low in iron, we tend to have shedding. Okay? So that's important that we find out if we're low so we can address it. And then we have zinc. Now this can support hair growth when you are deficient. Remember, deficient. We have to check if we're deficient. And it included in several hair support formulas a lot of times. You'll see it when you get zinc, your hair formula, you'll see zinc a lot of times part of it because it helps with shedding and it helps with hair growth, help to grow your hair. So then we have biotin. Now that helps if you're actually low in biotin. If you're not low in biotin, it may not necessarily do anything, but it usually does not help, like I said, if the levels are normal. Okay? Okay, so we have to keep those things in mind. But we do want to be cautious with saw palmetto, which is often marketed for DHT-related thinning, but evidence for women is very limited, okay? So it's better viewed as an optional add-on rather than a first-line solution. So, for instance, fish oil and omega-3s may support general health, but they are not clearly effective as a primary hair loss treatment. Also, biotin can interfere with some lab tests, including thyroid and hormone testing. So it is worth telling your clinician before starting it. Okay? Now, don't I give you some good information here, guys, that you probably didn't think about before? I know. Tell the truth. I'm just kidding. I just like to have some fun with you. So the best next steps is, in this case, if the hair loss is truly hormonal, the smartest move is to confirm the cause first. So we must confirm the cause first. We must confirm also if there's any deficiencies, because the best supplement depends on whether the driver is low. Like I said, the deficiencies. So whether it's iron or low vitamin D or thyroid issues, postpartum shedding, menopause, stress, PCOS-related androgen changes. Okay? So we have to make sure that these things are on point before we start to really say that it's hormonal related, or is it stress related, or do we have a condition? Okay? So when we're taking back our plate, ladies, and you know what that means, any condition that we as women deal with, nutrition always can play a huge role. It either can eradicate the position, whatever you're dealing with, or it will be a good thing to help to get you back to where you need to be. So foods that are naturally high in iron and zinc are especially helpful for hair health, because both minerals support hair follicle function and growth. So the best choices are usually a mix of animal, plant foods, since some forms of iron are absorbed more easily than others. Okay? So let's talk about that. So some of our rather better sources of how we can get iron, for instance, lean red meat. Now, as a nutritionist, I am not against a person having meat at times. It is needed. It is needed also to provide certain nutrients in our body. But we want to make sure that one is lean, and two, most important, is organic. Okay? So beef and lamb are among the most efficient food sources of iron, and also provides an excellent amount of zinc. Shellfish, if you're not allergic to shellfish, for instance, oysters and shrimp are excellent for zinc, and oysters are actually very rich in iron. Okay? And then we have spinach and leafy greens. So spinach and kale and collard greens provide all of the heme iron and other hair supportive nutrients that we need, guys. That we need. And then we have the beans and lentils, for instance, black beans, lentils, chickpeas, and other legumes offer excellent plant-based iron plus zinc source. Okay? And then our oats, okay, that can provide iron for us and B vitamins to our diet. So to break down a little bit of the zinc, oysters, for instance, is one of the richest natural sources of zinc. Okay? And like I mentioned earlier, beef and lamb, strong sources both of zinc and iron. And then we have pumpkin seeds, a top plant-based zinc choice, and is easy to add to your meals. And then we have Greek yogurt. And if we want to put a little eggs in there, definitely organic. Both provide zinc and protein and other nutrients that is useful for hair health. And as I mentioned, that, for instance, chickpeas and lentils and beans, these are also solid plant-based sources of zinc. Okay? A good pairing for hair. So let's say if we do a spinach salad with a grilled steak, a lean grilled steak or a salmon. We can do an oatmeal topped with pumpkin seeds and Greek yogurt. We can do like a chickpea and lentil bowl with leafy greens. We can do a lean beef and beans and vegetables in a stew. Okay? And we can even do organic eggs, because I'm going to say organic. That's the best way to have your eggs, is get organic. with sauteed spinach, and then with a whole grain toast. So those are great ways to pair. Okay? So when we do or pair iron-rich plant foods with vitamin C, it helps your body to absorb the iron better. So better foods like citrus and berries and bell peppers and lemon are useful alongside the spinach, the beans, and the lentils. We do want to make sure that we are soaking, okay, or sprouting our legumes and seeds. So it actually helps to improve mineral absorption by reducing compounds that could interfere with the zinc uptake in your bloodstream. Okay? So a simple rule for hair health is to aim to build meals, at least with one protein source, one iron-rich food, one zinc-rich food, and one vitamin C-rich food. Okay? So, for instance, a good example is a bowl with lentils, spinach, pumpkin seeds, and maybe do a little lemon dressing that you can make on your own. Okay? So that's how we can take back our plate in helping with our hair. And like I said, keep in mind that even though these foods can definitely help our hair health, if you have hormonal hair loss, it may not necessarily completely eradicate the situation, because you're going to have to now address the hormonal issue that we talked about. Like, for instance, if it's anything like PCOS or if you're dealing with thyroid issues. But once we can get those things under control, then we can continue to take back our plate. And if we don't have a present hormonal issue and we still want to take back our plate, we need to do that so that we don't have any issues and so that we can keep our hair healthy. That's what's so important. So you know that I always provide, after I talk about a condition, I always provide a gift for you guys. So it's usually a smoothie or a juice possibly, or maybe even a fruit bowl or whatever I choose to do. But I give these gifts. Why? Because I want you to start today. So if you're experiencing the things that we just talked about and you're like, gosh, I'm having these issues, I'm frustrated, what do I do? That's my goal, is for you to start immediately, to start rebuilding whatever the health condition is to get going as soon as possible. So this is going to be our hair juice, okay? So we're going to, mind you, everything that I'm mentioning, you want to get organic, okay? So we want to do 1 cucumber. We want to do 2 celery stalks, 2 carrots, 1 green apple, a handful of spinach, 1 small piece of fresh ginger, and juice of a half lemon, and 1 to 2 cups of water if you need it, okay? So we want to make sure we wash all of that produce. We want to chop it into pieces small enough for your juicer or your blender, and we want to juice everything together and blend with water and strain if desired. Now, we always want to serve immediately for the fastest taste and for the fastest nutritional absorption, okay? Because the longer our juice is out there, sitting on your counter and not doing anything for you, it starts to lose its nutritional absorption, right? So as soon as we juice, we want to take it immediately where it can have the best effect. Also, we want to take it on an empty stomach. First thing in the morning would be great as well, because now we can go ahead and get those cells lubricated, get those cells getting those nutrients before our day actually starts. Okay? So this kind of juice is a nice way to add the hydration and the plant nutrients into your daily life, especially ingredients that is used for hair growth. This juice recipe, like cucumbers, carrots and spinach and apple and ginger, helps with that hair growth and support that you need. And this is something that you can start immediately. Okay? All right, ladies. Well, we've covered a lot today. We talked about our hormones and how our hormones can affect what parts of our hormones, like our estrogen and our DHT and things of that nature, that can affect our hair, our lack of hair, our shedding and lack of the growth, and our ponytails are much more thinner now. Hair on a pillow. We talked about all of that. We broke it down. We broke down the different foods that can help us and what some of the testings that the doctors may do. For instance, they're going to do a thyroid panel. They're going to do a hormonal panel. And if you can go to a functional nutritionist like myself, you can get the full gamut to make sure that you are not deficient in any nutrients, so you can get to the bottom right away, which is so extremely important. Okay? And we talked about the whole thing of not feeling that you're overreacting. You know, our hair is important. It's very important to us as women. And it's okay. It's not being vain, as we talked about earlier. It's not about being vain, but it's about the importance of us feeling good, looking good for ourselves, right? It's okay to be selfish sometimes. It's okay to want those things. So I try to cover things here that we deal with and how we can take back our plate. We talk about so much of that. So it's never something that you can say, well, you know, I just have to deal with this. No, we don't have to deal with things. We just have to find out what's going on with our bodies, because as I mentioned earlier, our bodies tell us. Our body tells us what's missing. Our body tells us if there's something going on. What I want you to do is start to pay attention to it. Okay? Start to pay attention to it. So with that being said, guys, I have enjoyed today with you. And as always, I always say your health is your wealth, because again, if you're not healthy, you can't enjoy your life. You know, it's not so much about having billions of dollars and you're sick. So put your health first. And remember also to never put a price tag on your health. That's another thing too. And sometimes we do that a lot. We skimp on ourselves. No, we need to be selfish, and we need to never ever put a price tag on our health. And if you need further assistance as far as in helping to deal with your hair loss and knowing the proper foods to eat, having a customized plan for yourself, get testing done that you may not have done in the doctor's office, because I do, you know, a lot more testing when it comes down to over 200 different panels, genetic testing, all kind of things. And of course, one of my favorites is any kind of nutrient deficiency testing. Give me a call. Give me a call. Definitely book your appointment. Go to www.nutritionudesign.com and book your appointment with me so that we can get started together on getting that hair health where it needs to be. And I promise you that I won't stop until some changes are made for you and your hair. I promise. So go again to www.nutritionudesign.com and book your appointment with me. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, reach out to me as well. Not a problem. There's an area on my website to contact me to ask me any type of questions that you may have as well. The other thing, guys, please make sure, please make sure that you share this podcast. I really work hard each time to provide you topics and hopefully solutions of things that you can do right today to get your health back in order. I am your partner in your health, and I want to be able to help your friends and your family as well. So please, please do me a favor and share this podcast. Subscribe to this podcast. This podcast is on Podbean. If you go to podbean.com is where I host it, but I'm also on all the major platforms. Okay. So if you want to go to YouTube, if you want to go to Apple, if you want to go to Spotify, I am on all the major podcast, places that you can think of out there. So please do me a favor and subscribe and make sure that you share this podcast, guys. It's just so important to get the word out there, okay? So I hope again that you have enjoyed this. I hope it's been informative to you, but most important, if you're not sure about something, play it again. Play it as many times as you like so that you can make sure you can get all the great pointers that I actually said to you today. So with that, guys, I hope that you have a fantastic rest of the day and rest of the week. And remember, never putting a price tag on your health. And wellness is not just a focus, but it is a lifestyle. Because it is, guys. It is. It's so important that we know that. It's not so much about just juicing one carrot or starving ourselves until we don't have anything to eat. It's about having a well-balanced diet, and I'm not even going to call it a diet. It's more so lifestyle nutrition and taking care of ourselves, right? So that's what's important, and that's what I want you to always get in your mind. So it's not a focus. It is a lifestyle. So with that being said, I look forward to seeing and talking to you next week. You take your beautiful, gorgeous selves and enjoy yourself today. And I will see you soon.